time to focus on semiconductors as the group is falling at the potential of tighter export restrictions. Also some tough talk from the Trump administration, too. Trump and gang there. So it's not an administration unless he were voted, but I used to refer to it as such in the prior administration. Matt Maley is with us, Managing Director, Founder, The Maley Report. Thank you for being with us. So I was just noting that you have the concern about tighter export policies. It's hurting the names like NVIDIA, like all these chip stocks. First, let's talk about that. The SMH, for example, is down 6.5%.
Yeah, I mean, these stocks were, first of all, they've gotten very expensive. I mean, you look at whether it be some of the chip stocks like Advanced Micro Devices, which is trading or was trading at well above 50 times forward earnings just a couple of weeks ago. It's come down, but still quite expensive. And then other tech names like Microsoft at near 40 times earnings, forward earnings, and Apple 35 times earnings, et cetera. These are the types of overvaluations that make the group somewhat vulnerable. And of course, they were all overbought as well, on at least on a relatively short-term basis. And the same thing with the SMH, and whether it be the NASDAQ 100 or the XLK, the more broad technology ETF, these are all overbought. And so they've become vulnerable. When you get a piece of news like this, new news that kind of came out of nowhere, it's not a big surprise these stocks are starting to get hit. The question now is whether this is just kind of a one-day thing or if they continue to fall.
Right. I mean, Taiwan Semi also has been coming under pressure. I was reading the quote earlier about something Trump had said. Is the group going to be under pressure regardless of who wins in November?
Well, I mean, the one thing I worry about is that over the next couple of weeks, and even the next couple of months, the group could be under pressure because your previous guests kind of say, well, maybe this kind of thing kind of washes over and it was just kind of a trial balloon and they're really not going to do anything with it. Well, that may be the case, and you sometimes see that from any administration. But when it's coming during the political season, I mean, let's face it, with the conventions, this one's starting with the GOP this week, this is really when the presidential election process really starts. And if these guys start playing, have competition on who can be tougher on China, I mean, I think the former President Trump has already kind of established himself that way. If the Biden administration, or even if somebody replaces him, which I guess is still not out of the question, although less likely, that's going to be a problem. I mean, and if they start touting it to the Democratic convention and you start hearing more of this stuff, again, a group that's expensive and overbought, it's still vulnerable. So we need to be careful about how these things trade in the coming weeks.
So at this point, and what Trump had said was that Taiwan Semi had taken, they did take about 100% of our chip business, he told Bloomberg Business Week. And that was the comment there. Intel somehow is bucking the trend. Any intel on Intel?
Well, a couple of things. So first of all, it's going to be interesting, too, because Taiwan Semiconductor reports, the TSM reports tomorrow their earnings. And this new kind of developments may kind of make it cloudy there, anything they might want to say about their about their forward guidance. But you say with this thing with Intel, it does help them, believe it or not, because even though most of the other chip stocks are getting hit, it just shows how, I mean, one of the things I've been saying about Intel for a while now is that even though it's continued to have a tough time, it is, they used to have too big to fail companies. We now have Intel as kind of too important not to succeed, because if we do not want to rely on Taiwan Semiconductor or the chips out of Taiwan in general to the degree that we have. The only company that can manufacture chips, that is big enough to manufacture chips in a meaningful way in the U.S. is Intel. And I've been saying that it's this is a national defense issue, and so therefore the government is going to make sure they're going to give them contracts and stuff to make sure they succeed. So one way or the other, I think on a very long-term basis, Intel is doing well. And again, the fact that people are more worried about what might happen with Taiwan actually helps Intel, both on a short-term and a long-term basis.
Look, I'm seeing Marvell, AMAT, LRCX, Lam Research. Those are down 9% each. All of these names are down 6, 7, 8, 9%. Are any of these names, I know you said they were frothy and they had already run up. ASML is down 12%. Would you buy any of these names or all of these names or an ETF today on this kind of pullback?
I wouldn't. I mean, it doesn't mean that they can't bounce tomorrow or over on a very short-term basis. But when they get as expensive as they are and they get as overbought as they had become, the pullback, especially when it's new news and especially if this news has any kind of staying power, the pullback tends to be more than just a couple of days. But that's okay. I mean, we all know corrections, pullbacks, all those are healthy for and even in the best of bull markets. So even if AI is going to continue to change the world, even if it's going to reach the kind of extremes that a lot of the bulls are calling for, it's not going to happen in a straight line. And I just think just one day of a pullback is not going to be enough to work off some of these overbought and overvalued developments. And so I think you can hold off a little bit as we move through the rest of the summer.
Matt, very interesting. So not taking the bait, not today, not the buy today. You want to wait and see, and maybe there will be a better day to buy the semiconductors. Matt Maley, thank you of the Maley Report for joining us.
Thanks, Nicole.
Thanks. Great topic today because obviously those are big moves.